Okay, we will start with the next topic, that is pattern variables. Okay, so from Talcott Parsons, if you see what we have done before, last session we have talked about social action. So we have discussed about the introduction related to Talcott Parsons, and I've told you what all things you need to write over there. And we have done in detail the integrated approach of Talcott Parsons. So how he integrated the utilitarianism, the positivism and idealism, etc., that we have seen. And we have discussed about the theory of social action. And what was the understanding related to social action? Any act, if it is consciously performed, as a social action. So we can see how he have modified our Weber in his definition and also in terms of his ideal types. And I've told you that in itself is actually going to be a question for you in mains. How Parsons modified our Weber in his theory of social action. So you can see in the definition, any act which is consciously performed a social action, but there are certain conditions, right? What are the conditions? It should be in a social situation, and then there should be goal. From the actor's side, there should be a goal behind the action, and that is what the manifest consequence, that is what Weber is actually talking about. The intended outcome, that's what you mean by goal here. And there should be norms and values, okay, and it also should have some investment of energy. So these are the four conditions which need to be satisfied. In that case, any action, if it satisfies this four condition, can be social action. So this is what we have discussed, and we have discussed about different ideal types of social action in terms of instrumental action, and then moral action, and then expressive action. Yes, expressive action. So instrumental action was similar to Zweck rational action of Weber. Moral action was similar to traditional and word rational action of Weber, and expressive action was similar to affective action of Weber. So this is how he actually compared it with Weber's ideal types. So 3 ideal types for Parsons and 4 ideal types or 4 regularities. What do you mean by ideal types? What all things you need to write if the question is asked about ideal types, you clearly know. So there is no point in getting into that details at this point of time. So this is what we have discussed. And also towards the end, we have discussed about 2 orientation, that is related to motivational orientation and value orientation. So if you talk about an actor is always goal seeking. So actor is always looking for a goal. For example, you as an actor, your goal is to become IAS officer, okay, or IPS officer. So here there are different means to achieve this goal, right? Mean 1, mean 2, etc. So there are different ways in which you can achieve this goal, and you will choose those mean. That means you will do a particular action which is having an impact of what? Your own motivation. That is what motivational orientation. Okay, this is the internal aspect, that is a motivational orientation, goal, etc. And also the norms and values of society, that is the value orientation, that is the external aspect. Okay, so you take an action to achieve the goal which will be influenced by both your own motivation, at the same time the norms and values of the society. That means there is a force which is coming from within, that is in terms of your motivation, and there is a force which is coming from outside. So you can see here, this within this element is what Weber talking about. So by introducing this element, external influence, that is what we mainly see in terms of Durkheim, Marx, etc. So he introduced this element also, and in this context is what we mainly say that Parsons modified over Weber. So simply you can talk in terms of definition, okay, you can talk in terms of ideal types, okay, all are perfect, but this is the most important point that you need to write. If the question is about how Parsons modified over Weber, Weber is talking about only motivational orientation, that means the internal aspect by using a micro perspective. But Parsons has given importance to the external aspect, the power of collectivity also, the influence of collectivity also, which was argued by Durkheim. So if you see in Weber's context, we have criticized Weber by using Durkheim by saying that he ignored the influence of collectivity. Now when it comes to Parson, he integrated both approach, and this is what we have discussed in the introduction itself. He combined all the perspectives, and he also favored the exclusivism which was proposed or favored by the perspectives till then. Okay, positivism, idealism, and also utilitarianism. So this is what we have done. Now if you look here, again yesterday itself I have told you, so this is how you do action. So your actions will be based on either motivational orientation or value orientation or the combination of both, right? So it can be like 50-50 combination is possible. So like half from the society influence and half from your own motivation. Or it can be like in this ratio also 90-10. So if it is a very modern society, in the modern context, if you see, motivational orientation is more important. Individualistic society. So in this context, your own motivation is more important. And if it is a traditional society, it could be like this 90-10. So the values are more important if it is traditional society, and there is no clear-cut such this ratio or distinction. It could be even 60-40 also, it could be 40-60 also. Even this numbers doesn't matter. Just for the purpose of understanding, to make you understand, I'm putting these numbers. This can be in varying form. The point is, this orientation can be in varying form. Okay, so if you see, there was a question in ethics in 2017 that I think I've discussed this question before also. In 2017 ethics paper, you can see a question that you are an aspirant, you cleared the prelims and you cleared the mains and you're going for the interview. On the way, you saw somebody met with an accident, right? A mother and a child met with an accident, and what is your action, whether you're going to help or whether you're going for interview, etc. So the point which I want to tell you is, ethics we will discuss separately, that is different context, and the action that you do may be different. Here, according to Parsons, if you see, here you will face a dilemma. Okay, in case of, let's talk about three different societies. If it is modern society, the values that you carry in modern society is more individualistic value. So motivational orientation will be more. So you will not be that much concerned about that particular accident, and you may not help that person because your goal is more important for you. Your internal motivation is more important for you, not the values of society. So in the modern society, for example, the societies like USA, if you see, you will be more inclined towards your own motivation, and you can have reasons also. You may think that there are established institutions to take care of these situations. There are traffic set up, and there are many other setup. There are ambulances and there are social services. There are many other setups to institutions to take care of this. So it's not your job. Whereas in a traditional society, if you talk about, you may not be goal oriented. It is ascriptive in nature. So you may try to help that person even if you miss the interview. So the point is, in modern society and in traditional society, it is almost defined what you're going to do, and it is expected. In modern society, motivational orientation is more important. Goal is more important. So you will go with that. In traditional society, this is more important. So you will go with this. But the problem is in societies in transition, like if you talk about societies like India, neither traditional nor modern. So there will be a confusion in this kind of society, whether to go with your own motivation or to go with the values of society. And that is actually the reason why in ethics this kind of questions is asked, because you will face ethical dilemma. Okay, so in societies like India or in societies which are in transition, the individual face dilemma with respect to the choice of motivational orientation and value orientation. Whether to go with this or to go with this is a confusion that you actually face in which kind of society? In societies which are in transition. And this dilemmas, so here you can see the dilemma. This dilemma, in ethics we will study it as ethical dilemma, but here it is understood as pattern variables. So that is actually the topic for today. So I hope you understood what the dilemma is. The dilemma is basically with respect to the choice of motivational orientation and value orientation. Whether I should go with my own motivation or should I go with the values of society. So with respect to the choice of these two, you will face dilemma. and this dilemma is maximum in societies which are in transition. Okay, this dilemma is solved through what? The dilemma is actually solved through roles. What role you will do. In modern society, the role expectation is clear. The role is defined. This is what you're going to do. In traditional society also, there is an expected role. It is clearly defined. This is what you will give importance. But the societies in transition, role is not clearly defined. So there you face dilemma with respect to the selection of your role, whether it should be inclined towards motivation or with respect to value. So this dilemma is most common in societies which are in transition. And this dilemma is what we are trying to understand in terms of today's topic, that is your pattern variables. I hope this is clear. Now, one more point which I want to tell you is, even though I told about this modern society and traditional society, actually there are no societies which are completely modern. That is the reason why I have never written 100-0. If there is 100-0 means you will only go with motivation. But even in US also, there may be some values which will be influencing you. At the same time, in traditional society also, your own motivation will again play some role. So I will not say 100% it will be your own motivation in modern society, or 100% it will be the external influence or society in traditional society. I can't say that. It will be in varying degrees. I can say maximum motivational orientation in traditional society, maximum value orientation in which society? This is modern society, motivational orientation, maximum value orientation in traditional society. And the problem is with respect to the societies which are in transition, where you will face dilemma. So I hope the point is clear. Actor is always goal seeking. He possesses alternate means. With respect to the choice of this means, you face dilemma in terms of what? In terms of the selection of motivational orientation or value orientation. That means your own motivation or the values of society. And this dilemma is what we try to understand in terms of pattern variables. So there are different patterns. Okay, you can see again in terms of ideal types. So there are some regularities. Some regularly seen dilemmas are there. That is why pattern variables. There are some patterns. So you will see in terms of patterns. There are 5 patterns. So we are going to see this in terms of 5 pattern variables. So what are the pattern variables? The dilemmas that you see with respect to the choice of motivational and value orientation. Okay, now the dilemmas are like this. First one, ascription versus achievement, or it is there clearly, there is no point in writing it. You can see here, these are the dilemmas: ascription versus achievement, diffuseness versus specificity, affectivity versus affective neutrality, particularism versus universalism, collective orientation versus self-orientation. Now let me tell you one point. If this question is asked, it's a best answer which you can ever write in your answer. It's well prepared. Everything is there from Parsons. There is no need to refer anything else for this particular topic. What all things I have discussed, it is there here already. So before I discuss about the 5 different pattern variables, let me go for what all things we have discussed. So actions never occur in isolation, but in constellation. That means what? You do any action, it will be followed by certain action. One single action will not be there. It will be in constellation. That is, every action forms part of series of action, which Parsons terms as action system. So when you talk about action system, means what? Actions in constellation. That means any action will be followed by certain other action. In society, the system of action generally exists in the forms of roles performed by individuals. So we all are performing roles. I am performing a role in achievement of a goal. You are also performing a goal in achievement of again a common goal, right? So we all are performing certain roles. Why? To achieve the goal. It means that society develop roles. So you perform a role of a student and I perform the role as a teacher, as a system of action, and we are doing some actions. I am doing an action here, you are reciprocating. That means it is in constellation. So it is again in an action system. So the society develops roles as system of action in order to achieve certain goals. So we have a collective goal here and we perform certain roles to achieve the goal. Role is a vital link between individual and society. So because of the roles only, even we are also connected, right? While performing these roles, an actor may face dilemmas. So this is the point. Why he facing dilemma? Because you have two choices, motivational orientation and value orientation. So the dilemma is basically with respect to the choice of motivational orientation and value orientation. So these dilemmas are the result of actor's decision with respect to the use of or choice of motivational and value orientation. I hope this point is very clear to you. This is a crux of this paragraph. If you miss this, then it's over. Game over. In every society, there exist patterns which are distinct combination of these orientation. So we are talking about different patterns are there, and that's what pattern variables. But different patterns are sometimes conflicting, resulting in dilemmas. Parsons called these patterns as pattern variables. So that's our topic for today. So I hope this much what we have discussed is clear. Thus, individual faces dilemma with respect to the choice of pattern. Every society resolves this dilemma by defining role expectation. So I've told you already, in traditional society, what is the role expected? It is crystal clear. In modern society, what is the role expected? It is crystal clear, right? In that example itself, in traditional society, you will help the person. In modern society, you will go for the interview. But in certain societies which are in transitional stage, in transition, that's enough. With certain societies which are in transition, role expectations are not properly defined or institutionalized. Okay, for example, the dilemmas are least in traditional and modern society. Why? Because role is defined. There is a role expectation. What is expected out of you, it is crystal clear. And maximum in those societies which are making a transition from tradition to modern. Parsons mentioned 5 pattern variables or dilemmas faced by individuals in society. The pattern variables has been presented in a dichotomous manner, each one of which represents the polar extremes. In actual societies, these polar extremes exist in the form of continuum. I'll tell you what is it: continuum, polar extremes, dichotomous manner, everything. So the point here is, if you get this question, pattern variables, it's a must attempt question. It's a well prepared answer. You see the content, it is very well written, and there is nothing more you need to add in this. Just reproduce the same thing. Okay, so these are the pattern variables: ascription versus achievement, diffuseness versus specificity, affectivity versus affective neutrality, particularism versus universalism, collective orientation versus self-orientation. So when it comes to ascription, it refers to actors' judgment of others in a situation. Either the judgment can be done in terms of ascriptive attributes or on the basis of achievement of a person. For example, a Dalit, okay, and whether you will see him as a Dalit in terms of the point of view of caste, then that is ascription, ascribed status. But if this Dalit is an IAS officer or an IPS officer, you will see him in that context, then that is achievement oriented. Okay, so that is first the dilemma that you will face: ascription versus achievement. It is with respect to, again, if you see in the example that I have given to you, if it is ascription based society, that is a traditional society, you will go and help that person who met with an accident. If it is achievement based society, achievement is more important, that is in modern society, so you will go for your interview. Simple. Now when you talk about diffuseness versus specificity, it is basically related to the relations. For example, the relations can be very specific or it can be diffused. Okay, we have a teacher-student relation. Okay, so it can be all of you are from different states and different parts of the country. It can be very, very specific by taking into consideration of the objective. Objective is you are here to study and I am here to teach. That's it. That is what you mean by specificity. And this is what you can see in modern society. What is the the relations are specific, but diffuseness means even though this teacher and student, they will be like friends. Okay, they will share everything. That is what you mean by diffused relation. So I can even talk about GS and other subjects also, not only confined to sociology. So interacting more, that is what or you can see in the traditional society, if you see you want to go to a particular shop. Okay, you're going to the shop. So when you go there, even the shopkeeper will keep on asking you many things related to your family and all those things. That is a diffused relation. But specific means nowadays you go for shopping mall and all, go get it, come out, right? That's it. That is very specific. So it is about relations. Affectivity, affective neutrality. I can give you an example of a doctor. So what should be, it is related to emotion. So emotion, okay, if emotions are involved, that is related to affectivity. No emotion is what you call as affective neutrality, affectively neutral. So a doctor need to be affective neutral or affective. Doctor need to be affective neutral, because when you are treating the patient, okay, you need to be affective neutral. The patient may be your relative, okay, and he may be in pain, but it doesn't matter. If you think that when you talk about particularism versus universalism, but these are related to different types of values. Again, it can be universal values, like certain values are universal. Even when we discuss about ethics, we talk about love, care, compassion, integrity, honesty. These are universal values. But in this context, I can give you an example. Let's say constitutional values are universal values, applicable to everyone. Caste values are particularistic values, right? So that is related to the, again, values. Collective orientation, self-orientation. It is related to your actions. If your actions are oriented towards a wider society, that is collective orientation. If your actions are oriented towards achievement of your own goal, it is self-orientation. For example, we have discussed n number of time when we discussed about Durkheim, we have discussed about soldiers committing, soldiers dying in battlefield or captain dying with sinking ship. When we discussed about suicide, we have discussed it as altruistic suicide. And when we discussed about Weber also, I've discussed that in the context of moral, this word rational action, right? So here it will come under collective orientation, because that action is for the larger good of the society. It is going to benefit the society. That is collective orientation. Self-orientation means you're preparing for civil service exam. It is for your own motivation, achieving your own goal. So I hope this is clear. Now what we'll do is we'll go through the PDF so that things will be very clear. The point here is you don't want to read anything for this. It will be very confusing. If you try to read the textbooks, it will be very confusing. Just understand, here we are only talking about dilemma. Dilemma is related to what? Motivational orientation and value orientation, whether to select what. So you can see here, if it is in a traditional society, there will be a clear preferences for this: ascription, diffuseness, affectivity, particularism, and collective orientation. If it is a modern society, these are the preferences. And again, ascription versus achievement, you cannot completely see the society which is completely modern and completely traditional. So societies will come here. That is what I have told you. It can be continued. It can be close to modern. So it will be close to ascription. It will be close to traditional. So close to achievement. But the problem is here, societies who are in the middle, right? So here there will be more confusion, more dilemma. Okay, now let's go through the PDF. So ascription, achievement we have done. Diffuseness versus specificity. So if this question is asked, it's a must attempt question, okay? It refers to dilemmas regarding range of demands from a particular relationship. It also involves the nature of obligation generated in the interaction process. It can be either specific, taking into consideration the goal, or it can be diffused, widening its range irrespective of the goal. I hope you understood. In case of our example itself, it is applicable, right? We can stick to our goal that I need to teach you sociology, or you want to learn sociology, we can stick to that, then it becomes specific, or it can be diffused also. Affectivity versus affective neutrality. It refers to the amount of emotions considered appropriate in an interaction process. Neutrality denotes least emotion and affectivity denotes the most. Doctor-patient relation. Particularism versus universalism. It refers to standards of values used in any evaluation in an interaction situation. Particularism refers to taking into consideration traditional beliefs, and universalism refers to modern and rational value system. Caste values are particularistic, whereas constitutional values are based on universalism. Collective orientation versus self-orientation. It refers to orientation of an actor with respect to his own self-interest or collective obligation. Okay, it manifests itself in whether the individual's action is oriented towards the self or large group. Is it your own motivation only for achieving goal, or for the larger group, soldiers dying in battlefield? So in a traditional society, there is a specific set of preferences for what? Ascription. The first 5. Ascription, diffuseness, particularism, effectivity, and collective orientation. On the other hand, in modern society, the preferences is for achievement, specificity, neutrality, universalism, and self-orientation. These patterns are again in the form of what? Ideal types. These are again ideal types, and the pure form may or may not exist. For example, it is almost impossible to find a modern society which is purely based on achievement. So there can be some elements of ascription also, right? Similarly, it is difficult to find a traditional society which is purely based on ascription. Thus, this dichotomy of pattern variable must be seen in a continuum. Any doubt here? Okay, now we will discuss a topic that is related to action system, and this discussion will be complete by tomorrow's discussion. Tomorrow we are going to discuss the theory, most important theory, that is system theory, social system. So this is actually a prelude to that. Okay, so normally people consider Parsons as difficult. So we have already done with social action. It is not that difficult. Pattern variable, people will have some problem in understanding the concept. That's why pattern variable is difficult, but these two are okay for us. Now, some of you may face some problem here, but still I'll try to make it clear. This is the beginning, and tomorrow we will complete it. So here we are continuing the same thing. Action does not occur in isolation, but in constellation. And this is what you call as action system. At this level, Parsons conceptualizes the social, physical, and mental realities as constituting different parts. So when we discuss about action system, different parts are there: social, physical, mental, all are different parts of any action system. In this context, each part is seen as taking an action, thus forming an action system. So any system, if you take, there are different parts. Thus, in the case of social system, action is taken by an individual, whereas in the other system, the actions are performed by parts. So this means when you talk about social system, we are living in a system. So if we consider the class, this as a social system, it can be considered a social system. Why? I will tell you tomorrow. Okay, why it is a social system. Then here, who's performing the action? Individuals are performing the action. Okay, so briefly the definition I'll tell you. If there is a action, okay, I'm doing an action, A is doing an action, and let's say B is in the opposite side, and B is reciprocating. Okay, so then this can be considered a social interaction. So social action will result into social interaction when, if there is a reciprocity. That means if action is oriented towards other, that means my action is oriented towards others, right? You people. And it is in a state of mutual reciprocity. Correct? No, you are responding to it. Even though you are sitting silent, it is a response because you are listening to it. And then you're asking questions. So it is a response only. So my action is oriented towards you and it is in a state of mutual reciprocity. What will happen here? Interaction. This is what social interaction. That is very simple definition only. And this interaction will result into social system. But for that, certain condition has to be met, like what we have discussed in case of social action. That I will take tomorrow. And that is why I have told you, at least some you understood, right? So it's actually a social system. So here the actions are done by the individual. But in case of other system, for example, when you talk about the computer, it's another system. Who's performing the action? The different parts of the computer, right? That's what you mean by this particular sentence. That's it. So social system is one system where actions are done by individual. There can be other systems also where the actions will be done by the parts of the system. Okay. Now, Parsons mentioned 4 types of action systems: cultural system, social system, personality system, organismic system. All these in detail we will discuss tomorrow. According to him, every system constitutes of these 4 dimensions. So you take any system, these 4 dimensions will be there. Cultural system means what? Cultural system is a complex of norms and values. So cultural system is actually norms and values. Social system means it is actually the interaction between the parts. Okay. And personality system means it is the internal aspect. internal aspect, and the organismic system means the physical aspect. Okay, so here if you talk about the computer that I have told you, let's take any system, let's take the computer or a fan which is running, whatever it is, you can take one system and you can see what is the organismic system in that. Those components in the system, that is a physical aspect, right? Different components will be there in a computer, that is the physical hardware part, that is a physical aspect. Then personality system means it is the internal aspect. Okay, social system means it is the interaction, how all these are connected. Norms and values means certain rules, algorithms, etc., which are making the connection. But you will understand more this in terms of a social system. For example, in the context of society, if you take, we all are living in society. So what do you think will be the organismic system? Organismic system means the physical aspect. So in the context of society, it is the individuals, right? If you talk about society as a system, then the organismic system within society, that means the physical aspect. What is the physical aspect? Individual. Personality system means what? It is the internal aspect. This is the mental status of each individual. Okay. For example, if you talk about our class is a system. Okay. If our class is a system, these four components has to be met. First is organismic system. That is a physical aspect. What is that? It is an individual. Personality system, that is an internal aspect. What is that? All of us mental aspect. Mental aspects. Social system, what is that here? Interaction between parts. Here the parts are individual. So social system means it is the interaction between us. Interaction between individuals. Cultural system means what? It is the norms and values. That is the rules and regulations that we follow in the class, norms and values. Okay, so that is what written here in the context of society, or you can take it as this class itself. Class is a society only, it's a social formation, it's a social system. Organismic system is the individual. We all are the organismic system. Cultural system means the normative structure, means norms and values that we follow. We follow certain rules, right? All those rules. Social system is the interaction between us, individuals' interaction. Personality system is the appropriate mental status of each individual who is participating in this. So this is in the context of society. For example, you talk about any system which will have these four dimensions. One, physical aspect, it has to be there. Then internal aspect should be there. You forget about these names, just see in this way, physical aspect, internal aspect. Then there should be some interaction for any system, right? And also some rules and regulation that has to be there. So any system will comprise of this. Now, how we are going to use these understanding, we will discuss that tomorrow in the theory of social system. So this is slightly technical theory, but tomorrow we will see it is very easy. Just read this, understand it. What I've told here is, I'll repeat once again, any system if you take, there are four components. Okay, these are the four components: cultural system, social system, personality system, organismic system. Forget about the name. You can think logically. For any system, you need the physical aspect. Okay, the parts are required. Then this need the internal aspect, some internal connections. Social system, there's the interaction. And the cultural system, this is the norms and values. Okay, in the context of society, if you talk about the cultural system, it is the norms and values. Social system, it is the interaction between individuals. Personality system, it is the mental status of the participants. Organismic system, it is nothing but the individual. No, Parson is not talking about any solution for dilemma. Dilemma will be there in the society. The solution is role expectation. The dilemma is because of no role expected. Role expectation is there in modern and traditional, so dilemmas are less. Role expectation is not there in societies in transition, so he only talked about dilemmas, not the solution. Okay, so this is what I want to discuss with you today. Just go through social action once again, and also the pattern variables, okay? And also you can write an answer regarding what you have learned. Social action you can write so that you won't forget. You can even write pattern variables also. You can write and you can send to me so that you can make sure that the concept is clear. And if this question is asked, it's a must attempt question. Or both, for that matter, any question from thinkers, we have done well preparation with block diagrams and everything. It's a must attempt question only. So write an answer. That is very important. Once we complete the topic, you have to write the answer and then make sure that the concept is done for you. Pattern variables, you learn and then write an answer. Make sure that concept is done for you.